We have become a culture that rarely experiences the sensation of being truly off course, because the glowing blue dot on our screens continually reassures us that we are accounted for.
That is a comforting thought, Laura, but it rests on a rather fragile assumption that having a digital map is the same thing as understanding where you actually are.
That distinction is precisely why I wanted to talk about this tonight. Welcome to Late Night Insightful English Shadowing, where we explore complex ideas and refine advanced C1, C2 English skills after the noise of the day has faded. Tonight, we are examining what it really means to ask for directions when you are lost, not merely as a practical necessity, but as an act of vulnerability, communication, and orientation in a world governed by algorithms.
It is an intriguing subject because, at first glance, asking for directions seems like a purely utilitarian exchange. You lack information, someone else possesses it, and you bridge that gap with a simple query. Yet, if you pay close attention to how people navigate uncertain spaces, you quickly realize that asking for help requires a delicate balance of social awareness, precise language, and spatial reasoning.
Picture a quiet street late at night. The streetlights throw long shadows across the pavement. The air has grown cold, and the familiar blue line on your smartphone has suddenly vanished due to a dead battery or a lost signal. Suddenly, the abstract map in your pocket collapses, and you are forced to look up, observe your immediate surroundings, and approach a stranger.
In that exact moment, being lost shifts from an administrative inconvenience to an existential state. You are no longer merely moving through space. You are forced to inhabit it. The difficulty lies in the fact that modern navigation apps have subtly eroded our ability to form mental maps and, more importantly, our willingness to engage in spontaneous human interaction to solve a problem.
I completely agree with that observation. When we rely exclusively on turn-by-turn navigation, we become passive executioners of instructions rather than active participants in our environment. When that system fails, the anxiety we feel is not just about missing an appointment. It is about the sudden realization that we have outsourced our spatial awareness.
I see the validity in that argument, Laura, although I would add one qualification. It is easy to romanticize the era before digital navigation, but let us not overlook the fact that paper maps and verbal directions were notoriously unreliable. People got lost just as frequently. They simply spent more time arguing about it in parked cars. The technology itself is not inherently detrimental. Rather, our over-reliance on it has dulled a specific set of cognitive and linguistic muscles.
That is a fair critique, Thomas. Perhaps the issue is less about the technology itself and more about the distinction between spatial orientation and mere route following. Route following is linear and passive turn right in 200 meters. Take the second exit. Spatial orientation, however, requires a holistic comprehension of your environment, understanding landmarks, cardinal directions, and the underlying logic of a city's layout.
That distinction is worth unpacking. When you ask a stranger for directions, you are not asking for an algorithm. You are asking for their cognitive map of the city. You are requesting their subjective, lived experience of space, which often includes details no digital map can provide, like avoiding a poorly lit alley, noticing an obscure landmark, or understanding local traffic patterns.
Here is our first golden sentence. Navigating an unfamiliar environment requires not merely passive compliance with instructions, but an active synthesis of spatial cues, clear inquiry, and local knowledge.
There is an important idea inside that sentence.
Let us break this sentence down together for our first advanced shadowing practice. Listen carefully to the rhythm and intonation as we build it step by step. First thought group. Navigating an unfamiliar environment requires. Now, repeat that after me, focusing on the smooth transition between navigating and an unfamiliar. Navigating an unfamiliar environment requires.
Second thought group. Not merely passive compliance with instructions. Notice how the stress falls on passive compliance. Repeat that phrase. Not merely passive compliance with instructions.
Third thought group, but an active synthesis of spatial cues, clear inquiry, and local knowledge. Pay attention to the contrastive stress on active synthesis compared to passive compliance. Repeat the final clause. But an active synthesis of spatial cues, clear inquiry, and local knowledge.
Now, let us bring the entire golden sentence together. Speak it aloud with Laura, matching her pace and natural pause structure. Navigating an unfamiliar environment requires not merely passive compliance with instructions, but an active synthesis of spatial cues, clear inquiry, and local knowledge.
Excellent. Notice how the pitch rises slightly on instructions to signal that the thought is incomplete, before descending smoothly on local knowledge to convey resolution and confidence.
To illustrate how this functions in practice, consider a realistic scenario. Imagine a visiting researcher arriving in an unfamiliar European city to attend an international symposium. She steps out of the underground station late in the evening, only to discover that her phone has died and the street signs are partially obscured by scaffolding. She needs to reach the university conference center within 20 minutes.
In that situation, an inexperienced speaker might panic or approach a passerby with a vague, overly complex explanation. "Excuse me, I'm terribly sorry to bother you, but my phone battery just died, and I have a presentation at the university, and I thought it was near the cathedral, but I seem to have taken a wrong turn." This approach overwhelms the listener with irrelevant details and obscures the core request.
Precisely. A more effective approach involves structuring the inquiry with diplomatic clarity and geographical precision. The researcher might say, "Excuse me, I seem to have lost my bearings. Could you point me in the direction of the central library? I know the university campus lies just beyond it."
That formulation is far more sophisticated. By referencing a known landmark, the central library, she gives the listener a concrete reference point. Notice also the use of the advanced expression "to lose one's bearings," which means to become confused about where you are or where you should be going.
Let us examine some of the precise vocabulary and collocations we have used so far. Consider the term spatial orientation. In academic and professional contexts, this refers to an individual's ability to identify their position in relation to surrounding objects and directions. It sounds far more analytical than simply saying knowing where you are.
Another useful collocation is to bridge the gap. We use this to describe how clear communication connects ignorance with information. You might say, "A skilled communicator knows how to bridge the gap between technical jargon and everyday understanding."
We also mentioned passive compliance. This denotes yielding to authority or instructions without critical thought or active engagement. In professional life, passive compliance often leads to missed details and unexamined assumptions.
Consider also the phrase "to hold a cognitive map." A cognitive map is a mental representation of one's physical environment. When you ask someone for directions, you are effectively asking them to translate their cognitive map into spoken language.
Let us explore a subtle distinction here, the difference between being lost and being disoriented. To be lost implies an objective reality. You do not know your coordinates or the correct path to your destination. Disorientation, however, is a psychological state, a temporary disruption of your perception, where even familiar surroundings suddenly feel strange or incomprehensible.
That is a profound distinction, Thomas. You can be disoriented in a room you have inhabited for years if the lighting changes or if you experience sudden fatigue. Conversely, you can be physically lost in a foreign forest, yet remain completely calm and oriented because you understand cardinal directions and terrain features.
This brings us to the deeper implications of navigation in modern life. When we eliminate the risk of getting lost through seamless technology, we also eliminate the serendipitous discoveries that happen when we stray from the optimal route. The algorithmic obsession with efficiency optimizes for speed, but it starves us of context.
Indeed, an algorithm will always guide you along the fastest path, but the fastest path is rarely the most insightful. It bypasses the architectural nuances, the residential backstreets, and the unexpected encounters that give a place its character. By striving for absolute efficiency, we trade depth of experience for predictability.
There's also an ethical dimension to consider. When we ask another human being for directions, we engage in a brief, non-transactional civic interaction. It requires us to acknowledge the presence of another person, exercise politeness, and trust their knowledge. In an increasingly fragmented society, these small exchanges of civic trust are remarkably valuable.
I would challenge the assumption that technology entirely destroys this trust, Thomas. One could argue that navigation apps democratize travel, enabling people who suffer from severe social anxiety or language barriers to explore foreign cities with confidence. For them, digital guidance is not an escape from reality, but a bridge to it.
That is a persuasive point, Laura, and I accept that caveat. For many, the fear of getting lost is paralyzing, and digital tools provide a necessary safety net. However, the danger arises when the safety net becomes a permanent crutch, preventing individuals from ever developing genuine navigational resilience or linguistic confidence.
Thomas, here is our second golden sentence.
Effective communication during moments of uncertainty relies not on avoiding confusion, but on framing clear, contextualized questions that invite precise assistance.
That gives us something practical to carry forward.
Let us enter our second advanced shadowing practice. We will focus on contrastive stress, pauses, and authoritative delivery. Listen first to the opening thought group. Effective communication during moments of uncertainty relies. Repeat that clause, ensuring your voice maintains a steady, reflective cadence. Effective communication during moments of uncertainty relies.
Second thought group. Not on avoiding confusion. Keep this phrase crisp and restrained. Repeat. Not on avoiding confusion.
Third thought group. But on framing clear, contextualized questions that invite precise assistance. Focus on emphasizing clear, contextualized, and precise assistance. Repeat the final thought group. But on, framing clear, contextualized questions that invite precise assistance.
Now let us speak the complete sentence together, matching Thomas's rhythmic delivery. Effective communication during moments of uncertainty relies not on avoiding confusion, but on framing clear, contextualized questions that invite precise assistance.
Excellent work. Notice how placing slight stress on contextualized elevates the academic quality of the statement while maintaining conversational clarity.
Now, let us consider how you, as an advanced learner, can respond when you find yourself in a situation where you need to ask for or give directions in a high-stakes environment, such as a large university campus, a sprawling corporate headquarters, or an international conference venue.
If you need to ask for help diplomatically, avoid starting with an abrupt, "Where is room 402?" Instead, use a model response like this. "Excuse me, I seem to have misread the building layout. Could you direct me toward the main auditorium? I believe seminar room 402 is situated in that wing."
That response accomplishes three things. It politely excuses the intrusion, frames the confusion as a simple misunderstanding of the layout, and provides a major landmark, the main auditorium, to make helping you easier.
What if someone asks you for directions, but you are uncertain of the precise route yourself? A common mistake is to offer vague, inaccurate instructions out of misplaced politeness. An advanced response would be, "I am not entirely familiar with this floor myself, but if you consult the directory near the elevators, it should provide a definitive map."
Notice how that phrase, "I am not entirely familiar with this floor myself," uses hedging to politely decline providing unverified information while still redirecting the person constructively.
Let us pause for a moment of reflection. Ask yourself this question. When was the last time you allowed yourself to be lost either physically or intellectually without immediately reaching for a digital device to resolve the uncertainty?
Take a moment to think about how you responded to that situation. Did the absence of immediate certainty provoke anxiety, or did it spark curiosity? Here is a concise model answer you might give in a high-level English interview or discussion. When my phone battery died in an unfamiliar part of town recently, my initial reaction was mild panic. However, once I accepted the situation, I found that paying closer attention to street names and asking a local vendor not only solved my problem, but also gave me a much stronger mental map of the district.
That model answer demonstrates high-level structure, acknowledging the emotional response, detailing the shift in perspective, and summarizing the practical outcome using precise language like mental map and initial reaction.
As we draw our discussion toward a synthesis, it becomes clear that asking for directions is far more than a basic survival skill. It is an intersection of spatial intelligence, interpersonal diplomacy, and linguistic precision.
Indeed, we have seen that while technology offers undeniable convenience, Relying on it exclusively risks dulling our navigational instincts and eliminating valuable opportunities for human connection. The goal is not to abandon digital maps, but to maintain the capacity for active spatial awareness and confident inquiry when those tools are unavailable.
We have explored how framing a question with context, referencing known landmarks, and using diplomatic hedging transforms a moment of confusion into an articulate, successful interaction.
As you move through the coming week, pay attention to the way you navigate both physical spaces and complex conversations. When you encounter uncertainty, resist the immediate urge to seek an instant algorithmic answer. Give yourself space to observe, synthesize, and engage with the environment around you.
Thank you for joining us for this late-night reflection. We hope these insights and expressions give you something valuable to carry into your professional and personal life.
Before we sign off, consider this final question to reflect upon tonight. What is one area of your professional or personal life where you have relied too heavily on a rigid map rather than developing your own navigational judgment?
Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments, or simply carry the question with you into the quiet of the night. Until next time, practice your shadowing, refine your phrasing, and sleep well.